York down substantially. The road volume was down substantially this morning. That was the intention. The storm was a little bit later starting. We'll get to that in a minute. But I want to thank everybody for your forbearance and heeding the warnings. We've been on a bunch of the interstates today. We were on the Parkway once, 195 a couple of times, 295 a couple of times, the Turnpike. So we've been out there seeing this with our own eyes. For those who did venture out to work today, the afternoon commute, and this is probably the most important message we can deliver, the afternoon commute will likely be a slow slog, as roads will remain slick with any residual ice and freezing rain. As the system transitions to all rain, we may see flooding in low-lying areas in some urban streets and in areas where the snow and ice from last night could block drainage ways. I think our collective view is the precipitation on the snow side, we've sort of expected that's come down, but there is still some snow. It'll depend on where you are in the state. In particular, I think still the northwestern part of the state will see more of it. We continue to urge everybody to please take it slow and to proceed with caution. Pay close attention to any speed restrictions that remain in effect. And if you do need to go out, especially later today or tonight, please be alert for wet areas which could freeze over. Ice is our probably overriding collective concern. Overnight and into today, and Andrew can give you more color, more than 2,000 pieces of Department of Transportation equipment were out on the highways, in addition to the county and local crews who were out. We thank them all for their hard work, as we do the state troopers and local police and first responders who stood ready to assist motorists and residents throughout the night and into this morning. As you likely know, I've ordered all state offices closed for today. The state of emergency also remains in effect for the entire state. This declaration was made, as I mentioned earlier, to allow us more quickly and efficiently deploy manpower and equipment on an as-needed basis. This declaration will remain in effect until we feel that we can safely lift it. As I mentioned earlier, it had the added benefit of keeping down the traffic on our roads. The commercial truck restriction currently remains in effect on all highways in the state, with the exception of the Turnpike, the Garden State Parkway from 105 and below, and the Atlantic City Expressway. Colonel Callahan and his team will make the decision as to when this restriction will also be lifted. The majority of New Jersey is under either a winter storm warning, which remains in effect across central and northern parts of the state, or a winter weather advisory, mostly in South Jersey. Thankfully, we have seen only isolated power outages. Grace will address this in a minute in relation to the storm. But obviously, we're not entirely out of the woods yet, so I remind everybody, particularly with the eventuality almost certainly of ice impacting a lot of the state. I remind everyone, if they do experience a blackout, please call it in to your electric company. Don't assume your neighbor did. And certainly, if you have a down power line in your midst, don't go near it. We had a couple of fatalities in storms last winter, and call that into your electric company as well immediately. Visit ready.nj.gov for any storm updates from New Jersey's Office of Emergency Management, as well as important power outage safety instructions and winter storm preparedness guidance. Bless you. Although we have gotten through the morning mostly unscathed, there is still some wintry weather ahead of us. Let there be no doubt, and you can just look out these windows and see it, both this afternoon and this evening before this turns to rain. People should remain cautious about travel for the remainder of the day and evening. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security, and please exercise your common sense. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Colonel Pat Callahan. Pat?
Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. From a state police perspective, the roads have been a bit dicey this morning. We've had about 100 motor vehicle accidents, about 200 motorist aids, and I just would echo the governor's remarks with regards to using an abundance of caution while out there. It really never ceases to amaze me sometimes that those in SUVs with four-wheel drive, these type of road conditions, four-wheel drive really doesn't serve us all that well. So just let DOT plow trains where they are plowing up north, and those spreaders go out there and do their job. Again, 100 accidents. The travel ban that we put in place at midnight last night with regard to commercial vehicles, we did notice that there were a few that did not pay attention to that, including one that was in an accident as we made our way to the STEM C here. So we do that for a reason. We do that, although we sometimes may take heat over it with regard to commerce, it really, at the end of the day, our responsibility is to the motoring public and to the safety and well-being of people throughout the state, whether you live here or whether you're traveling through it. That's why those decisions are made, and I don't think my governor, or our governor, or myself, or anyone up here will ever apologize for having the welfare of those coming in and out of New Jersey in mind. So the afternoon, I do believe, according to the National Weather Service, is going to give us a little bit of angst, but I ask that everybody, if you have to be out, pay attention to the reduced speed limits, and make sure you get from point A to B safely.
Thanks, Pat. We witnessed with our own eyes, in fact, one of those commercial vehicles that ignored the ban and paid a price by getting into an accident. So thank you for that. With that, let me ask Assistant Commissioner Andrew Tunner to come on up and give us a little bit of a DOT update. Andrew, thanks for all your good work.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. As the Governor mentioned, this morning's commute was relatively smooth and saw less traffic volumes than normal. Many people seem to make adjustments in their travel plans due to the expected wintry weather, and we thank you. As most people know, there were two parts to this winter system starting on Sunday evening. So the transportation agencies have been activated at various readiness levels since Sunday night. Since early this morning, the NJDOT, the Turnpike Administration, and the South Jersey Transportation Authority had over 2,000 pieces of equipment deployed to deal with today's weather. We also have over 72 towing assets pre-positioned on our interstate highway system to help remove motorists from travel lanes so that our plows and spreaders can keep moving. NJDOT Safety Service Patrol has assisted 96 motorists between midnight and 9 a.m. As was mentioned yesterday, we have also implemented our incline readiness teams on Interstate 78 in Hunterdon County and Interstate 280 near West Orange and Newark. Incline readiness teams are plow teams with embedded towing assets, Safety Service Patrol, and NJSP State Police presence to help get motorists up and down road inclines, which are typically difficult in winter weather. The Turnpike has implemented a 45-mile speed restriction. I think they just dropped that even lower recently. And the Garden State Parkway also has a 45-mile speed restriction from exit 105 to the New York state line. New Jersey Transit had a relatively quiet morning. There was one disabled, an empty train that got stuck in the tunnel, which was quickly cleared. As was mentioned, the commercial vehicle travel restrictions are still in effect for our interstate highways except for the New Jersey Turnpike, the Garden State Parkway south of exit 105, and the Atlantic City Expressway. We continue to ask that commercial vehicles not travel on the restricted highways until we lift those restrictions. Roads are starting to get slick and snow covered. A winter weather congestion alert remains in effect. That means, based on the weather forecast, we still expect to be plowing and spreading today. We are plowing now, and during the afternoon commuting hours. We ask, if possible, for people to plan for extra time this afternoon and evening, as we will be working hard to keep the roads clear and safe. If you encounter a plowing operation or spreading operation, please give them plenty of space and do not try to pass them. Slow down. If you can, please try not to travel until the storm is done. Remember, clear the roads so we can clear the roads. As the Governor mentioned, there is still a good amount of winter weather expected this afternoon and evening, especially in the northwest part of the state, until it turns to rain. We will stay activated and are ready to deal with whatever snow and ice will develop. Again, on behalf of the Commissioner, we want to thank the public for heeding the warnings and giving us the time and space to do our work. it is helping. And lastly, also on behalf of Commissioner Scacchetti, I want to thank the hundreds of men and women of the DOT, the Turnpike Administration, SJTA, the Port Authority, and New Jersey Transit, and our contractor partners for all their dedication and hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Well done. Amen to the thanks to all the folks who are out there, including law enforcement, beginning with the state police. Again, the putting in place, I can't emphasize this enough, the state of emergency not only allows us more latitude to prepare if we've got some amount of certainty that a storm like this is coming, but it has the other intended consequence that we're living through, which is a lot less traffic on the roads. People take that under advisement, and because we have less traffic on the roads, the DOT and the state police and other authorities are much more able to do their job. With that, I'd love to bring up the Chief of Staff for the Board of Public Utilities, Grace Strom-Power. Grace, come on down.
Thank you. As the governor indicated, outages remain fairly low, but we are on alert and monitoring those numbers very closely. We continue to be in close contact with all of the utilities who have made all necessary preparations. In the event that outages pick up, utilities have crews on standby and are ready. As the governor has said, if you lose power, please report it to your utility immediately. If you see down wires, we also ask that you report that immediately as well. Please do not assume that someone else has already reported it or that the utility has knowledge of the outage or that the wires are down. Once again, we remind you to keep your cell phones charged and the contact information for your utilities handy. Those numbers are also available at ready.nj.gov. We will continue to be in touch with all of the utilities and work with our sister agencies as the storm plays out, and we hope that everyone remains safe and warm today. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Grace. Anything else you want to add? So take a couple of quick questions and then we'll...
Governor, yourself, the colonel referenced the vehicle you saw get into the accident on your way over here was in the accident. I'm assuming that was a tractor trailer, and if so, if you see tractor trailer, what's the penalty? We've been getting word at News 12 that there have been tractor trailers out on the roadways.
Well, they're going to pay a fine, am I right?
It's a ticket. It's a failure to observe the signs, which are right now it's been posted. We push it out through Pennsylvania, who also had the same restrictions. And again, troopers, their greatest tool, I think, is discretion. I think some of those tractor trailers through the course of the night, from midnight to about 6 o'clock, were coming and going as they pleased, and I think the troopers used discretion and said, this storm's a little delayed, and didn't ticket those. But those that went on when the weather started to deteriorate, I would expect, and I'm fairly certain that those commercial tractor trailer drivers were pulled over and ticketed. I'm almost 100% certain of the one that was in the accident that we saw that the trooper was at, that truck driver was ticketed.
We were not pleased. And I'm practicing without a license here, but I want to reserve the right for after. We always review how we do in a storm, and I'd like to reserve the right to review the price and consequences that somebody has to pay for something like that. First of all, we hope they're okay, because it was an accident and looked like a fairly significant one. But that's going to, assuming they're okay, that's going to suck in resources that we need elsewhere. And so I think we're going to look at this afterward and see whether or not we've got enough teeth in the sanctions that people should pay if they violate them. Michael and David.
Where was that accident, Colonel, and what happened?
It was on 295.
295 at exit 60.
It looked like a one vehicle, right?
And I could follow up with the trooper that investigated if you need anything later this afternoon.
David.
I have a two-parter, Governor.
No, my Lord, this will be the first time.
Indulgence.
I'm getting over the hat here, so bear with me.
Number one, some people have been suggesting that since November, when you were kind of burned by the surprise storm, that you've been kind of practicing a ton of prevention for a pound of cure. Assemblyman Ned Thompson says that the administration has spent $38 million responding to what are essentially minor storms, part one. And part two, A Monmouth poll out today suggests that you have support for about 66% of Democrats, and that most of the people who didn't know you now have disapproval of the job you're doing. Why can't anybody like you?
I love the premise of that. Okay, so on the first question, the storm in November, people were incredibly frustrated. I remember standing here, I was frustrated. Folks felt like they were let down, and I don't blame them. But we do a post-mortem after every one of these storms. By the way, I think that was the 5th or 6th storm in our administration, because we had a bunch last winter. And while we had some commuter challenging storms, the big ones were frankly elongated power outages, particularly in the northwestern part of the state, where we had double-digit unacceptable performance, and I won't get into the blame game again. So we're doing post-mortems after every one of these, including November, where we, on the commuter side, it was not really a power challenge, it was a commuter mess, and we did not get that right. Having said that, in one constant theme, given that public safety is at stake here, and given that Mother Nature is not an exact science, we're going to be safe than sorry. That's just going to be our MO. It's been our MO since last winter, long before the November storm, and it continues to be. So we had a lot of we don't make these decisions lightly when you put a state of emergency in place. National Weather Service, Pat is going to get a second home in their building before long here. We are deeply embedded with forecasting of multiple agencies in government. You make decisions as best you can. You call them balls and strikes as best you can. But as long as public safety is job number one, and it is job number one for me and our team, we're gonna err on the side of rather be safe than sorry. I can't speak to the Monmouth poll, but we don't run our government based on polling. So whatever it says, good or bad, whether it's really good or challenging or somewhere in between, we try to call balls and strikes to do what we were sent here to do, and you've heard me say 1,000 times, to build a stronger and fairer New Jersey that works for everybody. And that's the job we're going to continue to do regardless of what the polling says. I'll look forward to reading it at some point.
Well, it says that they like the minimum wage increase.
That's great. That's good to hear. That's a good piece of news. We believe that minimum wage contributes both to a stronger and a fairer New Jersey. That's a 2-for-1 shot, and I'm honored that we were able to get that done. Anybody else? So I'm going to practice without a license on this one as well for my colleague Dan Bryan. We will be communicating with you clearly. I'm just not sure exactly how. We have a state of emergency still in place. We have a commercial vehicle restriction still in place. We got our guess is a fairly ugly commute in front of us this afternoon. I hope we don't have power issues. The good news is high winds are not forecasted, and that's a good thing. But ice will be among us both in commuting and potentially in power challenges. So bear with us. We'll try to figure out the best way to communicate any moves that we may make. Again, everybody, please stay safe if possible. Stay home and go to ready.nj.gov if you've got any questions. Many thanks all. Thank you, Chris.
Camera Steve Shapiro from WABC. Standing right over there at the door is going to be your point person for B-roll, taking Vinny out of the main operation.
Some of our